What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Carpool Gaming for a very special edition of the PlayStation Drive sub-episode. Not really a real episode, but we're going to be talking all about PSVR2 because we have had it, and we've been playing it for the last couple of weeks, and we have thoughts, opinions, and a lot more. I'm joined, as always, by the Supreme Court of Canada himself, Mr. Court Lalonde. What's up, Court?
Anyways. It didn't work, eh? Like, I was just like, come on. Ryan's been all snooty before.
I mean, Court, when you say it, you got to learn from the best. When you say the word anyways, you have to follow it up with something. You can't just leave us hanging like that.
I feel like, it doesn't matter because it's not, we're talking about PSVR2.
Anyways, returning to the show, we also have the weatherman on the moose himself, Mr. Ryan Turford. What's up, Ryan?
Hello, friends. Welcome back. Me, I guess. Hi, I'm back. You're talking about PSVR. I'm very excited to talk about this with you guys.
I'm excited too. Of course, it's been out for a couple of weeks now. We've been spending a lot of time in it, playing a lot of different games. So this is going to be our thoughts over the course of the last couple weeks. And before we get into the nitty gritty of everything with PSVR 2, I want to very quickly start with just our VR history. What do we have coming into this? So people know kind of our levels of comfort coming into the PSVR 2, which might reflect a little bit later. Because for myself, I had the PSVR, loved that thing, played it all the time, haven't touched it in probably about a year or so. So for me, coming back into the PSVR 2, there's a little bit of wobbliness, a little bit of motion sick at the beginning, and then I very quickly got over it. But that's me. Ryan, what about you?
So we talked about this on, I think, the first episode of the PlayStation Drive that you and I did together, where I got the PlayStation VR 1 at launch. It was the only VR headset I'd ever used. And it was the only one I've actually used since, because I've actually never used like an Oculus Quest or, any other VR device. And I got motion sick real bad on pretty much every game and everything you could do with the PSVR 1. But you know what? I kept it because some advice that people gave me was just keep using it. Your body will maybe get used to it. My body never got used to it. And I thought a lot of that just had to do with the jankiness with some of the games or the headset itself. So I ended up actually selling it. So this is really my first return to VR in a long time, because I know newer headsets do a much better job with that type of thing. Or I know a lot of newer games, tailor themselves in certain ways to not get you sick. And we'll talk about that more as we go through this, but to see if that's really changed for me. But I wanted to give VR another try because I love the idea of playing games in VR. It's just one of those things where, as long as my body can keep up with it, we can get through it. But that's me. What about you, Court?
For me, this was the maiden voyage. I maybe put 10 minutes into PSVR 1. I got to pick it up for a friend when release day happened because he couldn't get to the store in time, and there was like a lineup for it, and like it was back in those days when you had to line up for stuff. And I grabbed it for him, and I got it home, and I decided to unbox it. I didn't care, and I unboxed the thing, and I used it for a whole 10 minutes before he showed up at my door. I finally, after plugging in all those cables and having that working, I played Batman I had the gloves in my hand. I looked around Gotham and he was at my door. That was it. That's all I got to do in it. I have played Beat Saber for a whole 10 minutes on Oculus Quest. And that is all my VR history until PlayStation VR 2.
So it's good because I like that our panel has, of course, I've spent a lot of time with VR, and we have two newcomers / returners to VR. So we're going to have a wonderful little conversation. And where I want to start is just kind of our overall impressions of the unit so far. Because again, it's been out for a couple of weeks. Obviously, they've completely overhauled the headset itself. We have, 4K, incredible graphics. We have fantastic looking screens down to one cord. We have brand new controllers that aren't the moves anymore. So I wanted to start with overall impressions of the hardware itself and how we've been enjoying it. Court, I'm going to throw it back to you. What are your feelings about the headset and the controllers themselves?
Well, one thing, it's surprisingly light. Like, it's really light, this thing. I was very shocked because I remember the PSVR 1, it felt heavy on my face. I didn't have it for long, but like I said, it felt heavy. This, I don't feel it. And I suffered a neck injury about 4 years ago now. And I was very worried about that factor of my neck hurting from using the headset. I haven't felt that. I find it to be very comfortable. I haven't had any issues. I have had issues where I've sweated. I've been sweating, but you told me that's just getting used to VR. the Sense controllers are awesome. Like they do add a lot to the games, especially in Horizon. And then even the haptics that are in the headset as well. Like when there's after the fall, when you get shot and you can actually feel it in your head, that's really cool. Like it as someone that is huge into the haptics in the PlayStation 5 and think that it adds so much to gaming,
Mhm.
this is doing that. I feel like a kid in the candy store playing with it. I'm just like, "Oh my god, this is so cool. This is so cool. This is so cool." But with regards to just the headset and the controllers that this we're really getting into, I find they're very comfortable
Mhm.
to put your hands in. I haven't used the straps, but I know they're there. But I originally when I looked at it, I'm like, "Oh, you might feel it or whatever." It's almost like I don't even notice them in my hand. But I can't not talk about the 2 things that are kinda, it get to me. 1, you know what? I don't like the cord. I don't even like the 1 cord. I honestly, at this point, like, they're saying that it needs to be plugged in for certain games, and I'm guessing Horizon is one of them, but I don't know, man. It kinda bothers me as I sit in my chair. I don't stand a lot in VR, so I every now and then, I can feel the cable, and it takes me out of immersion.
Okay.
Um, and then the Sense controllers die so quickly. Like, they die quick.
Yep.
And it really does depend on the game you're playing, I've noticed. When playing Horizon, they die quick. When I'm playing What the Bat or anything that I guess doesn't use the haptics as much, like Job Simulator, they don't die quick.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I will
th
say
that th those are my gripes.
I will say that the charging cradle feels like much more of a necessity this time around, especially with those things,
Yes.
because it's pretty much as soon as I'm done playing with it, regardless if I'm going to play it again in 15 minutes or tomorrow, those things go right back into that charging cradle, and they're just kind of they have to live there. Otherwise, yeah, they go quick. Ryan, what about you? Overall thoughts on the headset and the controllers themselves?
Yeah, actually, a lot of my thoughts kind of echo a lot of the stuff Court was talking about. Like, my first thought was the same as Court's, where I do really appreciate how light the headset is. Especially, I do remember PlayStation VR one's headset being, pretty heavy on my face and being uncomfortable because a lot of people might not know this about me because it's definitely hard to tell on camera. But I have a pretty big head, like a like a larger head than most normal people. So I remember just the first headset feeling uncomfortable to wear a lot. Whereas this new one, just feels so much more comfortable to wear. Whereas, unlike Court, even though I'm sitting down and I could definitely feel the cord sometimes, it just hasn't really bothered me as much. Like not nearly as much as the cord with the first headset,
No,
which
my.
was cords on that one, which
Mm.
were kind of ridiculous. And also it just added to the weight of it as well, which it played a little bit into the feel of it. The controllers feel great as well. Like I do really like them. It can feel a little bit awkward doing. I find sometimes doing R1 and R2 at the same time sometimes can feel a bit awkward, or using some of the face buttons in common. If you're having to use a bunch of the different buttons together, sometimes it can feel a bit awkward because some of the button placement's not. I don't know if it's like super optimal, but I think it's as good as what you're going to do with this style of controller anyway. So it didn't bother me that much. My only nitpicky thing is because I do have such a large head. One of the things that ends up happening is it is tough to keep the headset in a proper position to maintain focus.
Mhm.
Even when I really tighten it, the tightening barely does anything with the fact that my head barely fits in, the headset halo as it is. So the front sometimes tends to slip down or fog up because I have to get so close to it sometimes. So that is kind of one of my minor nitpicks with the headset itself. But otherwise, I think it's great. I think, visually with the screens, I think they look incredible. And we'll get into it with some of the games, but I do think like it's a huge step up from the first one, both in stability, both stability wise and just visual standpoint as well. So we'll talk about that more when we talk about games. But what about you, Matt?
Yeah, I love this thing. I was a massive fan of the original, and like for me, I always liked the form factor and everything with the original, and I'm also hashtag Team Big Head. I got a large noggin, and I found that like especially after I tried the Vive and how much heavier that thing was and how much more uncomfortable it was, it gave me a lot more appreciation for it. And the fact that the PSVR2 is such a clear marked improvement, even on the original, which was already one of the best when it comes to form factor, is awesome. Like, I love how this thing feels. I primarily play VR standing up. So for me, like I'll just kind of, toss the cord behind me and then I don't even realize that it's there unless I'm like really stretching the cord out. It's not something that's bothered me personally, but yeah, like it fogs way less than the original did. It
Yeah.
looks fantastic. Like Court was mentioning, the haptics in the headset itself. Like when some games like Pistol Whip, when you feel like the bullet whiz by your head, you can actually feel it like slightly vibrate as it kind of moves past you. It's like it's so cool. And like, strapping that thing on for the first time and there's like that new VR smell to it. Like I was kind of expecting coming into this to be like it's VR again. And as soon as I kind of was like back into it, I was like, oh no, this is like a huge step forward. Like this feels fantastic. And of course, like the controllers, massive improvement. Massive, massive, massive. Battery life aside, these things feel fantastic. Like everything feels super natural and kind of where I expect things to be. Obviously, depending on the game, it can get a little bit, like Ryan was mentioning, it can get a little bit confusing. Like I feel like the barrier to entry on some games is higher than others as you're trying to remember what certain button combinations do and like where do you reach for certain things and is it the trigger or is it not. Like there isn't really a common through line across the games yet that R2 is this or R1 is this. Like
Yeah, like I hate it when they make it the side trigger. Like,
yeah,
why?
yeah, to
Yeah,
like
who does Star Wars?
yeah, to use
Why?
that thing.
Why is that? Why is that the trigger?
Exactly. So like there are some things that obviously we're in early days right now that aren't entirely figured out as of yet, but as a whole, I love this thing. Like it's brought me back to being back in VR every single day for it just being a single, USB-C in and then you're off to the races. I will say I think my biggest nitpick so far is Ryan what you were mentioning. The kind of sweet spot for it is much harder to find than it was compared to the original. And I think that's just because everything that we're seeing is so much higher definition comparatively to what came before that
Yeah.
finding that sweet spot where things aren't at least a little bit blurry is tough. And again, as me, someone who plays a lot of it standing and I move a lot when I'm playing, that kind of fades. Like, I'll have moments where I won't notice it at all. And then it'll hit me right quick. I'm like, oh, hold on, I have to fix it. And then I get immersed all over again. But I will say that finding that sweet spot is more difficult this time around. They give you more options to find it, which is great. But it is a little bit more difficult to find that sweet spot. And then once you find it, you're good as long as you don't move. But I have to say, like, I'm really, really, really impressed with this. I was expecting just PSVR, but better. But what we got was a natural evolution of it that isn't just here's the same thing again, which I'm really, really happy about. And like we've danced around this, but let's get into the games because like we're gonna kind of hop around. There's a bunch of games that we've been playing.
Well, I just wanted to touch on that sweet spot just to give
Yeah.
a little tip. And I'm sure you guys have all done it, but one thing I have noticed is I went into the settings and you can actually one thing I do is I don't have a small head either. So we're all just giant heeds over here. I actually put the goggle on. So I make sure the goggle's on first, then I hold it here and then I just tighten it in the back. So I go into the settings because if someone else is using it and you can actually do the eye tracker so that you can move it before I tighten it all the way and you can actually go into the settings onto your PSVR after pressing the button on the sides you can see through
Mhm.
and you can actually line up your eyes
Nice.
purposely. And that's just after I've played a while, I've noticed that it can get unaligned
Hmm.
and I forget where to get it. So then I'll pop it on and then I'll line up. And then it's like perfect for a little bit. Like it's truly also, if your TV does support 120 frames per second, you actually need to enable that for your headset because it's actually turned off. And
Hmm.
it's because they didn't expect everybody to have a TV that has 120 frames per second, so you actually have to turn off auto in the settings of the PS5, then go into the settings for the PSVR, turn on 120 frames per second,
Hmm.
then you can turn auto back onto your PS5 so that your TV, while you're playing games, will get the 120 frames, and because your headset supports it, will get the 120 frames per second, but it's actually turned off
Yeah.
when you get it out of the box. So for the
Mhm.
people that have a PSVR 2, if your TV doesn't support it, you need to still go into the settings and turn on 120 frames for your PSVR headset because
S-
it's off.
Similarly, there's also like a frame rate option that you can toggle as well. That essentially will kind of shrink the viewing angle on the TV itself, and it'll actually pump more into the headset, which makes it a much smoother experience. Again, that's a setting you have to turn on, and isn't on by default. You can head into the settings and turn that on as well. So that's another one that I would recommend. Um, we're going to be talking about a bunch of different games. We're not going to be going super, super in depth into a lot of them. We are going to have separate conversations around some of these games. Some of the ones that we feel like, we've all played, but we're gonna hop around a little bit. And I want to kind of do this by going kind of like one game at a time. So, Court, I'll throw to you first. Pick a game that you've been playing. Tell us about it, and if we've also played it, we'll hop on. If not, we'll move on to Ryan and kind of do a nice little triangle of game.
Well, I know I did a review on it, but I think you can't. I think we'd be remiss if we all didn't talk about the game.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've talking to Endless and Ryan's even edited my review, but Horizon Call of the Mountain, um, it's amazing.
Yep.
And I truly think it's a system seller. But the issue is the worst part about that, even though it's a system seller, it's getting it in people's hands. Um, it's also one of my gripes. I do think that it should have just came with the headset itself.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that no game comes with it is still it's mind boggling to me. But hey, it is what it is. You can play demos in the PlayStation Plus, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and play some VR games. And the games aren't expensive. I will give them that. The VR games are not that expensive. But this game, it's just beautiful. Like, when you first just put on that headset, the menu screen is amazing.
Yep.
Like, they didn't I joke in my head, I'm always like, "Spared no expense," because they truly spared no expense. And they even have, for your friends or anybody else you wanna show what VR is like, you can actually do the Safari demo that is in the game, and you get a trophy for it too, where you just sit on a boat and, you get to see all the machines that are in the game. And so for anybody who's like, "Hey, I wonder what it's like," I had friends over. I'm like, "Hey, you want to test this out?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I can play a game." Like, you know what? Let me just do one thing for you, and you can just hook it up, and they're still able to pull the bow out and do whatever they want, but
Mm-hmm.
they're in the boat. So
That's
that boat that
awesome.
you're in at the beginning, you can do that and let everybody have like almost like a tech demo.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the true uh presentation of what PSVR2 could do is that game.
Yep.
Because pulling the bow back, oh my god, I think we all just were like, "Okay, we just need a Hawkeye game. Just get it over with.
Mm-hmm.
Just give us a full-blown Hawkeye game." Um, and you know what? You get tired playing that game, and that's because you're when it says to call the mountain, it should say climb the mountain.
That is kind of what you do in that game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Constantly. I love it too. I'm just gonna hop on this one because obviously I'm sure we've all been playing it, but it's fantastic. I will say that the barrier to entry is a little bit it takes a little bit depending on how you're playing it. I'm playing it with like the actual movement controls. So there's settings that you can like hold X and square, and you have to actually like run, and that's how you move your character. And similarly with dodging and stuff, everything is much more tactile and kind of like
Why do
visceral.
you hate yourself?
I love it, dude. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy playing it that way. Like I said, it takes a little bit longer to figure things out, especially combat. But once you do and everything clicks, like I'm like whipping around the battlefield, taking shots, popping onto the other side. It's a ton of climbing, but I really really like it because I find it very very engaging. Combat is super super fun. The world is beautiful, and like straight up, it's my favorite Horizon out of the three. Like I will claim that because again, like I feel like the original and even Forbidden West I enjoyed, but this one like I can't wait to go back to it. It is a ton of fun. I really enjoy it. Ryan, have you been playing Horizon?
So I have actually, this is one of the ones that was one of the toughest for my body to adjust to.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
As far as the movement, because there is no, teleport around the teleport movement
Yep.
option. You can move really slowly, which is, what I do to kind of reduce the motion sickness. But like combined with my fear of heights and the motion sickness part, it was tough for me to get into this one,
Yep.
which is why I haven't finished it. Like I've played it, but I can't play it for very long before I have to put it down. At the same time, I definitely agree with you guys about the game itself, because I think it is gorgeous. I think it's definitely a showcase for the headset itself. It also does a great job of introducing all of what the headset can do. Even just going around the menus and seeing how the eye tracking works is super cool. And I love being able to select stuff using, just point, like looking at it rather than moving your head. I think that's super cool. So I think there's a lot of cool things about it. Again, it took me a little while to kind of get adjusted to the combat because I didn't love the bow stuff at first, but it's something that grew on me a little bit more as I played through it. But it's a game that definitely like it had to warm up to me at least a little bit first before I could really invest my time in it. But when I finally was able to get over that hurdle, I found a pretty rewarding and fun experience waiting for me when I was able to do that. So
Yeah, speaking of a fear of heights, yeah, dude, there are moments where I literally like I can't look down right now. Like there's some of those legendary climbs that like I've accidentally found along the way. I'm climbing and I'm like I look down and like my entire body rocks. And again, I play standing and I'm like, whoa, like oh
yeah.
no, I'm not looking down again until I get out of here. Like no, thank you.
Well,
So
have you fallen off the mountain yet, Matt?
yeah, a few
It,
times.
yeah, because I was gonna say that
Yeah,
that's what happened to me at first when I was first learning the controls.
and
Was I
it's like a
fell off like the
whoa.
side of a cliff, and I was like, "All right, shut this game off for now. I'll come back later."
It's interesting because I get vertigo, straight up my knees go weak when I go on like roller coasters or any kind of stuff like that. But in this, I don't know what it is. Like I could look down, I could do whatever I want. Like I don't know why. I felt like the king of the world. I'm just like anytime I was on like hanging off something, like we're climbing a big mountain, I do one handers and look down.
Yeah, no, thanks. Ryan,
Yeah.
what's another game you've been playing?
All right, so probably the standout game for me is actually not a VR specific game, but a game that incorporates VR into it, and that's Gran Turismo 7.
So good.
Because
Yep.
I was a big fan of Gran Turismo 7 when it came out, but the VR mode just brings it to another level. Like it is amazing. Where I thought that maybe the update wasn't installed correctly because the game's telling you to use the the DualSense controller to play it, and the menus, of course, are all in 2D, like just in theater mode as you're going through the menu. So I thought, oh, maybe something's up. But then as soon as I joined the race,
Yep.
it was all like in VR stretched around me and just looking around and seeing the scenery while you're driving and seeing the rays of sunshine come in, or the haptics when they kick in when there's rain, when you're driving around and stuff like that. Like it was a really incredible experience playing Gran Turismo in VR, and it's definitely one of my favorite games to play in VR, and which is just weird to me because it's one of the games that I thought would actually be the worst on my body to play.
Mm-hmm.
But turns out I don't know what they did, but I was totally fine playing Gran Turismo 7, despite the fact that my car is driving 300 miles an hour down the Nuremberg or whatever. So yeah, I just really enjoyed Gran Turismo 7 a lot. And even though they didn't really do anything new with it, for the most part you're just seeing the world of Gran Turismo through the headset in 360 degrees, and you're even when you look down, you actually see your full racer outfit and everything like that. Like that, even though there's nothing new there, I still feel like it changes the way that I play that game to the point now where I'm like, I kind of want to go out and get a racing wheel to actually immerse myself
Yep.
in Gran Turismo. And I've never been a racing wheel person. So it's just like, I think that this game kind of awoke something in me where I'm like, I think I might end up being that person now.
I had the exact same reaction. Again, like I liked GT7 fine when it came out, but I've not usually won for these kind of like more track racers. But like yeah, when you get into that first race and like you see the sun kind of move across you as you make a turn, and then like I actually feel I drive better in VR than I did when on a flat screen, just because I feel like I can actually understand the depth more. And yeah, for the first time I was like, do I need a racing wheel and pedals? Like I've never cared before. Never once in my life have I even considered purchasing it. And after spending some time in GT7, I was like, maybe I do want to buy it. Like, dang, it's so cool. Court, did you play GT7 at all?
Love it, love it, love it, love it. And I was the same as Ryan when I thought it wasn't working, and I literally had to go on YouTube. I even said to Matt, I'm like, I can't really get the game working. And we were talking on the show. I'm like, I don't get it. And Matt was kind of looking at me like I had something wrong with me. And I'm like, well, maybe I should like Google this. And so then I Googled it and was like, oh, you don't, because I was like trying to use the sense controllers. I'm like, why
Yep.
am I not? What's going on here? And then I used the controls, the dual sense, and I'm like, oh. And the one thing I found about it is I wasn't a fan of GT7 at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like at all. When I play a racing game, I like the Forza Horizon type games. I want that little arcadey feel in there. And the Forza, like straight up racing sim, it just usually isn't for me. So even when I originally, thanks to our friends over PlayStation Canada, they sent me a copy and I was playing it before and I'm like, no, it's just too racy sim for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And I can drive the car better, and I don't know why. Like I can hug the road better. I'm
Mm-hmm.
finishing races better. I'm like changing the difficulty. I'm like, I can play this on a harder difficulty, no problem. And I have no problem. Like it feels like I'm driving a car.
Yeah. It's
and it's
almost like you just like because you're like right in the car,
Yep.
you should have a better sense of your surroundings versus when it's even pulled that back. Even if you play just in the cockpit mode, I just feel like you're just so much closer to the action that it just makes it that it gives you the realism of driving more than it ever could without the VR headset. And I think
yeah,
that plays into
my
it.
anticipations are I can anticipate the curve. I can see it. Like when you're playing almost like third person view, when you think about it, when you're usually playing a racing sim, you're farther back, right? So
Mhm.
you're but this I'm actually like I'm hugging the corner. I'm able to brake. Like you can actually see your hand shifting. It's it's therapeutic almost. Like it's very relaxing. Like you can play the music modes, you know, when you just play with the music, and I played with, like, the symphony music, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm just going on a Sunday drive." Like, this is just it was it's really cool. Like, it is that is almost what they should have done, like, put together, like, a little, 3-track demo of VR Grand GT7 and been like, "That's what comes with the headset." You get 3 tracks that you can play on just to let you know what it's like to feel to play this because it's so cool. Like, it's a must. Anybody who owns that game and likes GT, I don't know how you don't go out and get a headset to play this with a racing wheel.
I
Dude,
actually think also it's like it probably is a good way of bringing people in who don't like Gran Turismo, like you, Core. Like I think that it's the perfect thing to get someone into a game like this. And also, it just makes me a little sad that Xbox, looking on the other side of the coin, doesn't have a VR headset. Because
oh,
imagine this with Forza
Oh my
Core.
god. That's
Like,
why like that I can't that game got me back into racing. Like racing games. I hadn't played racing games in years, and then when it came out on Game Pass and I played it, I'm like, "Oh my god, this game is so fun." And then I'm getting the same giddiness of fun playing VR GT7.
yep.
It makes me go, "Okay." Like somebody was like, "Oh, you should try Ace Combat if they actually put it up." And then I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like that sounds amazing too. I
Mhm.
want to fly a plane now."
Yeah, no, I'm super glad that we've all been enjoying GT7. As for the first game I'll kind of hop on is Pistol Whip. It's a game that has been on PSVR. I just never had an opportunity to pick it up, and playing it now on PSVR2, which huge shout out to the devs for providing a key. I love this game. It's like if you take Beat Saber, Super Hot, and John Wick's and just like mix them all together into this one incredible package. It is a ton of fun. Everything just feels so natural, and it's just like I'm landing shots, popping headshots off, and it's like as you're moving on this like track through a level, all the enemies are coming at you. The enemies come out to the beat. You shoot alongside the beat. The obstacles come up alongside the beat, and it's like as you just get into this like groove, into this like just the state of like just moving through the level. That's just a ton of fun. Really loving this game. We'll have a review up on the channel shortly, but this game is just such an impressive and fun way to just enjoy music in such a different way, and you just feel so cool. Like you just feel so effortlessly cool playing this game that it's just like dang. Like I want more of this. I want like they have a campaign mode, which actually like there's a couple of different like campaigns. Like one of them is like you're in like the future and you're a dude who gets like captured by robots, and like each level there's like a different theme to it. So like the first level is just a normal pistol only. The second level, all of your guns are gone, so you have to actually like punch your way through the level. Then the third level, like things change and they actually grow and adapt depending on what you're doing. The game is a ton of fun. Like I really love it. And if anybody is like looking for that kind of super hot Beat Saber esque experience while we wait to see if there's anything else coming from those studios, like you cannot go wrong with Pistol Whip. I really enjoying this game. I don't think either one of you have played Pistol Whip as of yet, right? Okay. Court, what's your next game?
Speaking of fun and music,
Mm.
Unplugged Air Guitar is the game that I have played way too much on the PSVR2. It was the game that detracted me from finishing Horizon right away. It was the game where I was like, "Oh, you know, thanks to the devs, they supplied me a code," and I was like, "All right, like I'm gonna hop into this." I really want to. I loved Rock Band. I loved Guitar Hero, and I couldn't put it down. And then my wife was playing it, and then we were going back and forth, and we were literally just trading songs. They have a lot of amazing songs. I'm already looked into that in the Oculus Quest version of it, you can download songs and pay for them,
Hmm.
but they're not up in the PlayStation Store yet. So I am a little disappointed because I want to go out and get new songs because you get to hold the guitar, but because of the haptics, you feel the guitar. you feel this, you feel strumming the guitar. You when you pull the guitar like this, like you actually get to feel it in your hands, and you're sliding your fingers up and down, and you can actually see it on the screen, and it's very intuitive, and it's very rewarding at the same time. Like, I was surprised, even like I ramped up the difficulty just for fun because I was pretty good at Guitar Hero, and I'm like, I was screwing up, but then once I got the hang of it, I was like, oh my, it felt like I was actually playing a guitar. And when the experience makes me feel like something that I've done before, that's when it blows me away, because the immersion, the thing I'm loving so much about PSVR is the games that have the immersion. In that
Mm-hmm.
game, oh my god, the immersion is top. And it's not a game that everybody is talking about. It's not on the top list, and it's not like, hey, but everybody I tell to until they experience, they're like, I guess I'm gonna have to buy. I'm like, it's that good. It's just fun.
Yeah, it's not a game that I was anticipating whatsoever, but hearing you talk so glowingly about it has definitely put it on my radar, and I'll probably end up buying it because I loved, the Guitar Hero Rock Band era of gaming back in the day. So like, I'm super happy you're enjoying it, and I'm really excited to check it out. Ryan, have you checked it out?
No, I'm on the same boat as you, Matt, where it seems like a game that's right up my alley. I'm the dude, with the 3,000 songs in Rock Band
Mm-hmm.
DLC. Like, I'm the type of person who is like the probably the target demographic for a game like this, but I just haven't had a chance to check it out yet. So this is one that's definitely on my radar too. I definitely want to pick
And
it up some
Ryan, I will
point.
say this: my wife, who is prone to motion sickness, nothing playing this game.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely nothing.
that seemed like the type of game, and Beat Saber is in a similar way, where it's like those are the type of games or experiences, because like you're not really moving as the player. I feel like would probably work better for someone like me
Mm-hmm.
who gets motion sick. So, and another game that kind of fits that bill is like Tetris Effect. I haven't checked it out, new Tetris Effect yet, but I feel like I'd probably have a very good time playing that too. So
I played that. Meh. I don't know. I didn't understand why it was such a big deal.
you
It's
just
just,
got to get surrounded with the music and the Tetris shapes, Court.
I guess it just
It's a psychedelic experience. Okay.
it didn't groove with me. Let's
Gotta
put it that
get
way.
gotta get Tetris.
Mhm.
Ryan, what's your next game?
So, of course, I guess I just have the theme of games that weren't specifically built for PlayStation VR, but games that got add-ons for PlayStation VR. I guess that's what I'm talking about today. Because, of course, in true Ryan Turford fashion,
Mm-hmm.
I would be remiss if I didn't check out Resident Evil 8 in VR. Because, of course, Resident Evil 7, but it was the reason why I wanted the PlayStation VR in the first place, the first one. And it was, to me, that was the killer app for it. Playing that entire game in VR and loving it to death. Like, it's hard for me to, because Resident Evil games, I usually always go back and replay them. But 7 has been so hard to go back and replay for me, because I don't have my PSVR 1 anymore. So it's been, I just haven't wanted to go back to it because I feel like VR was the best way to experience that game. So finally getting the update for Resident Evil 8 with VR, oh my God, it is like, that game's not really super scary to begin with. But it has its scary moments and some tense moments. And that is just heightened even more in VR. And I love the experience of Resident Evil 8 in VR. Yes, there's some annoying parts of the game as far as the controls are concerned, because a lot of times you have to grab,
Yep.
the ammo pouch from your side, or to use your flashlight, get this, you have to open your coat like this and then pull the flashlight out. But a lot of times it's like I'm doing this with my hand,
Yep.
like gripping where the coat's supposed to be, and just nothing's happening. So I just stand here like this, like a ninny for 5 minutes, trying to open my coat so I could get my flashlight, because they turned all the lights off and I can't see anything. So I know that. So I didn't really love some of the finickiness with the controls, and I think part of that just plays into the fact that I play sitting down, because I tried playing standing up because I felt like a lot of that stuff would probably work better standing up, but I got really motion sick walking around standing up. My body was just like, nope, sit back down. We're not doing it this way. You got to sit down and play games. So, but I actually I'm like halfway through the game again, to the point where I'm at the dollhouse, that famous section of the game that everyone knows about when you play that game. And it's a little terrifying. So I haven't finished it yet, but Resident Evil 8 in VR is incredible. And definitely, actually, for me personally, it's the thing that I'm most excited about for VR, because I love the Resident Evil series. So
Yeah,
Got to give it a shout out
I'm
here.
gonna hop on it too because I've played about an hour of it so far. Really, really cool. I haven't run into as many of the controller issues because again, I was playing standing, so like even the jacket feels a lot more intuitive. But what I will say about that one is it took me longer to kind of adjust the controls just because of how many controls there are with that game.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a
and
lot of them.
and they do some cool stuff to kind of again integrate the actual controllers and stuff, so it's just like a thing that you have to learn. But again, similarly, the game feels fantastic. Like moving around that world is super creepy and super weird. Like the even like the the flashlight, being able to like flip it and hold it in different directions, and if you put it back in your jacket it just stays on in perpetuity until you take it out and turn it off again. The game feels really, really cool. Like I said, I've only spent about an hour with it so far, but I'm excited to keep going with it. um I guess for my next game, I'll hop on to talk about Garden of the Sea, which is a really, really cute like adventure farming sim. There is a story to it, of course, like you as you kind of meet the little animals and you run around the islands and you collect different stuff and you're kind of building new houses. It's really, really cute. It's very, very zen. Like you can just kind of walk around and like this like floating rhino fish will just like kind of come up to you and they'll be like, I want a carrot. Now, all right, I guess I gotta go find a carrot for this fish. And that's what I'm doing for the next 5 minutes, is going around and hunting for carrots. It's really cute. It looks really good. Some of the puzzles I've been like, okay, wait, what? And I've had to look up a couple things because everybody knows. Similarly, Lockleth, Pigeon Brain over here, I'm not good when it comes to the puzzles. So I've had to look up a couple of them. But it's really, really cool. The world is beautiful. Kind of, hopping on that boat and taking it out for a spin is super cool. And like, seeing the animals kind of pop out of the water and stuff. It's a really, really cool, really relaxing experience. Haven't had any motion sickness in that one either. But I'm really, really enjoying with it. I haven't finished it as of yet, but I'm excited to keep going with it. Court, you've also checked out Garden of the Sea? Correct me if I'm wrong?
I have. I've checked out about an hour of it.
Yeah.
I grew some turnips. I gave the little whatever that thing was over in the corner. I gave it the turnips, and it was happy about it. I didn't stay in it long. It just ended up not being something for me.
Hmm.
But my wife did play it for a little bit, and she enjoyed it. It's very colorful though.
Yeah.
I will say that it's very bright and colorful, which I do appreciate it. And yeah, there was absolutely. I played that at the very beginning of my VR life cycle when I still didn't have my VR legs, and as you know, Matt, I could only stay around in VR for about a half an hour. That game gave me zero issues.
Hmm. Yeah. Super, super cute. Let's do maybe like one last round to kind of close out a couple of things. Court, hit me with another game.
I was playing What the Bat, and I actually really enjoyed it. There's some puzzles in there where what you have to do is your hands are bats,
I love
and
that game.
yeah, it's different, and you have to hit a ball or an object to hit a trophy wherever the trophy is. But you also have to use certain things. Like the one I'm stuck on right now, you have to use a paper airplane. And you have to use a joystick, but your hands are bats, so you're just using the joystick like very sparsely, and you've got to fly that paper airplane to get places.
Nice.
It's really cute, but I did get frustrated because I was just like, this is so hard. And when I even looked it up online, like a lot of people got frustrated with just that one little thing.
Hmm.
Like if they ramp up the difficulty real quick in that.
Hmm.
And otherwise, yeah, it's very cute. It's very cool, and the puzzles are fun.
Yeah. Nice. Ryan, hit me with another one.
I'm going to give a shout out to Res Infinite. So this was a
Nice.
PSVR1 game that I just didn't get to play before I got rid of my headset. But I'm, of course, big fan of Res from the PlayStation 2. And getting to play it in VR is like, man, that's an experience. That's a bit of a trip there. Flying through space, listening to some incredible music, using the eye tracking to then, target a bunch of the enemies that you're taking out along with the beat of the music was just super bad and cool. I didn't get a chance to play a ton of it, but Res is just a game that I really enjoy, and I'm glad that I finally got a chance to play it in VR because I never really got to check it out the first time around when it was in VR. So got to give that a shout out.
Nice. And I think for kind of my final one before we talk about one as a group, is Pavlov VR. It's Counter-Strike. Like it's like the mid 2000s, like deathmatch, running around. It's so funny, running around, and all you hear is like people giggling as you run by because it has like the proximity audio. So as you get closer to people, you'll be able to hear them if they have their mics on. And I've just was like, I ended up playing like 45 minutes straight, and I got a little motion sick with that one, not super heavy, but I kind of did turn off a lot of the settings just to see if I could last, and I was okay. It's just towards the end I got a little wobbly, but it's super funny. It's super great. Like, it really just does feel like that mid 2000s Counter-Strike era all over again, as you're running around buying weapons and like trying to run around and stay alive as you're playing deathmatch or team deathmatch. It is a ton of fun, and I'm excited to spend some more time in it. And I think we'll round out. We're going to have another video dedicated to Star Wars. So get ready for that one. But we're going to save that for a sec, because we've also all played After the Fall. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
We can't really not talk about that one. After the Fall, super cool. It's basically like Left 4 Dead that you'll play online, or you can play co-op with friends as you'll
But
move.
better,
But
but
better,
better.
right?
Like, it is better.
You move through the levels, you'll have different enemies that come at you, and you're basically like, looking for floppy disks and looking for different things throughout the levels to kind of hold on to and get through. It was the first like online multiplayer VR game that I've played in PSVR2. And it was just so funny loading into the lobby, and just people are just walking around, they're crouched, they're kind of moving around like little gremlins. Like, people are like, it was so funny. The first level that I loaded into and I was playing, this guy just kept being like, how do I reload? How do I do this? How do I reload? As we're getting swarmed by enemies. Took out the initial round, and then for the next 5 minutes, this one guy was like, I've played a lot of this, let me explain everything to you, as he just kind of like literally showing him, and they're having this conversation. I'm just standing there playing with guns. They kept getting mad at me because I would hit stuff early, and they'd be like, don't hit that button yet. I'd be like, what? Hit the button. It's such a funny experience. Obviously, like, the three of us are planning to hop in together, but yeah, I think it's really, really cool so far. Court, what about you?
Question for you, because I didn't play it multiplayer. I only played single player. I didn't hop in with anybody because I wanted to hop in with you guys. But I played it for about 2.5 hours.
Mhm.
I've been using the TV as my sound because I don't like the earbuds that come with
Mhm.
the PSVR. I don't like them at all. They don't feel comfortable. And then when I put my headphones on, it feels it feels very tight, even though it always keeps my headset in the right spot when I have my headphones. When you're doing, there's no voice chat with the headset. So are you using your headset that you have on your head right now?
So I wasn't talking. Like, I was just like, because I do use the earbuds, and they obviously couldn't hear me because there's no internal mic that, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I haven't tried using my actual headset as of yet. I've just been using the earbuds, and they were all talking, and I could hear everybody. But they couldn't hear me.
So for me, the thing I loved about that game is at the very beginning when they kind of give you like the tutorial, you can go the dual wielding, and the adaptive triggers, they're amazing. Like, that was the first game where I actually shot a gun, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the coolest, because you can feel the resistance, right? And I'm just like, wow. So then I'm doing like sides, and and the one thing I will say is, man, it's very responsive to when you're aiming, and you can actually look down the sights in the headset, and like, you're pinging off headshots.
Hmm.
I will say the reload though is a bit cumbersome. I do like the fact that you can move up the belt, so it's
Yeah.
a lot higher, because like I said, I like sitting. Yes, but you have to release the cartridge first, and then you hit. And that, I think that's what was happening to that person, because I had to figure it out too. But I do also really like the setting of it. The reason why I say it's better, because Left 4 Dead for me, just, I don't know, I couldn't get into it. But once again, it's almost like the race car game. When I'm in it, I really enjoyed it. I love the floppy disk, like the '80s feel to it. I love the little arcade boxes that are all around. It's very retro, but at the same time, it's like an old-fashioned arcade machine where you're sitting there and you're shooting with the enemies coming at you. That's what I felt like. I felt like I was in one. I
Hmm.
was in one of those arcade machines.
Ryan, did you check out After the Fall yet?
So I played through the tutorial 3 times with the teleportation option and got sick every time. So
Yeah.
I
It
did
is
not
it
put
is
any more time into
it
it.
is the
I
game.
tried 3 times and I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
No,
I can't keep doing this to myself.
that's totally, totally fair. And again, shout out to, a lot of the games that we've talked about. A lot of the developers have provided us code, so thank you to all of them. We're going to have another video go up for Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge, so make sure you pop over and check that one out as well. Once again, huge shout out to the devs for giving us review keys. But closing thoughts, folks, let's kind of round out the conversation. Final thoughts, Court. Do you think the PSVR 2 is worth it so far, and what would you say to people on the fence?
It is definitely, based on the price tag, a conversation that If you are married, have it with your significant other before purchasing. I think that's my biggest piece of advice. If you're single and you have the disposable income, sure. Like honestly, it's a lot of fun. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this PSVR 2. I'm having fun with it.
Mhm.
And I know that's one of my like things I keep talking about in video games. And if I'm not having fun, I just hop out of it. But I want to go back. Like, when you're playing that game and you just wanna go back, like Ryan, when you're playing Final Fantasy and you're just like, I gotta go back and play it.
I gotta go back. I gotta go and do my
Me with
dailies.
me with MLB The Show or The Division 2, which I still enjoy. I I took a day off because I wanted to rest myself because of my eyes and so on and so forth. But like today, I was like, I hop back in and Matt starts texting me, and I'm just like, Man, like I just got back in, and like the guy's over and over. I'm like, oh, it's one of those things I want to get back to. I want to continue and continue. Like I'm almost a little disappointed that I'm going away next week because I just enjoy it.
Ryan,
Yeah.
is it worth it?
So I have mixed thoughts on this. I
Okay.
think the headset itself is a fantastic piece of tech. And for someone like me, yes, I did point out a couple examples of where I got motion sick with games. But I actually think if you're someone who got turned off because of getting motion sick with PlayStation VR 1, I would definitely say give this one a try because you might actually be able to get over that or experience some of these games really, really well despite, having that hurdle. Yes, not every game I'm able to get into, like After the Fall, for example, or some other ones. But like Horizon, for example, it just took some time to warm up to it before I was able to get into it. So I definitely think, maybe if you're prone to motion sickness at all, make sure to, go over to a friend's house who might have one, or eventually they'll probably have a setup in stores where you can maybe go try one of these. But I definitely think it's worth it from a device standpoint. Like I definitely think the headset itself is worth the amount of money you're paying for it. The only part that I'm mixed about is the launch light up in particular. I just don't know if there's a super strong case for it. Yes, I think there's a couple strong games in Horizon or Gran Turismo or Resident Evil, and then a couple other ones. But I don't know if you need to go out and spend the money now, when if by, let's say, Black Friday time, if the headset goes on sale, there will probably be many more experiences to check out by then. So, that maybe make it a better time to wait. So that's why I think like it's probably a wait and see for me because of what Court mentioned. The price tag just plays into that decision a lot. Where even if you have disposable money, $900 Canadian is still a lot of money, even when you have disposable income. So, especially if like the launch lineup doesn't appeal to you, then I don't know if you need this headset right away. And one of the features we didn't talk about at all here is the theater mode, where you're
True.
able to, play games or watch movies in the headset itself. Almost as if you have a big TV in front of you. And I think for someone like me, if you're watching the video, you can see I'm in a very small room. I don't have like a huge TV or anything like that in here. So having a feature like that available to me where I can watch a movie on a big screen, like watch, Netflix or watch a 4K Blu-ray that way, I think is actually like a really good feature to have. Like I still want to try out, grabbing some 4K Blu-rays off the shelf and seeing what that experience is like watching a whole movie with the VR headset in and getting immersed in a movie that way. So I do think there are applications outside of just the games themselves as to this headset being useful, but I would say the launch light up, just look at it. If there's enough that appeals to you that really kind of tips the edge a little bit in the favor of buying it, then I'd say it's probably worth picking up now. Otherwise, I'd say wait for, Black Friday sale on this one. But what about you, Matt?
I think for me, like again, this is entirely comes down to how much experience do you have in VR and does the launch lineup appeal to you? Because like we've already mentioned, the tech itself is fantastic. Like they've packed a lot into these things that even at the price point, while it is high, you're still getting a good bang for your buck when it comes just to when it comes down to just the tech itself. Um, I do think the launch lineup is pretty strong, but the problem is that we don't at this point know too much past that. We don't know too much past the launch window, which is all the marketing that's been going into everything right now is basically until the end of March. So for me, I think if you look at the launch lineup and you're happy with what's there, then hop in. You can have hours upon hours. Things like we didn't even talk about, things like No Man's Sky. There's plenty of other experiences that we haven't even had an opportunity to check out yet, just because of how long some of this stuff is. There are full games here for you to play. If you love new tech, if you want to be part of the conversation at the jump, if there's enough in the launch lineup that you're like, oh, heck yeah, I want this thing now, hop in. You're not going to be disappointed. The biggest question for me kind of moving forward is what's next. And so if you're comfortable hopping in now, do it. You're not going to regret it. The headset and the games are awesome. If you're on a wait and see mode, also totally respectable and understandable given the state that we're in right now. So for me, I think this thing is awesome. I know we've talked a lot about a lot of the different experiences. Once again, make sure you stick around and check out the Star Wars video, which will be going up soon. Court, before we go, if people wanted to hear more from you, where could they do so, Court?
You can find me on Twitter at Court Lalonde, or you can find me at Carpool Gaming, or every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. You can come over and check me out at 3 Dads in a Console.
Ryan, what about you?
You can find me on your PSP internet browser, loading up http://twitter.com/Ryan Turford. What about you, Matt?
As for myself, you can find me on Twitter at Matt_SilverSoul. And of course, you can also find us over on the PlayStation Drive each and every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we go live and talk all things PlayStation. Let us know in the comments. Have you picked up PSVR2? If not, what are you waiting for? Is there a killer app? Is it the launch lineup? Let us know. We want to hear from you, and we'll talk about it next time. It's been a pleasure, my friends. We'll see you on the next video. Peace.